Welcome back to the deep dive. Every single major corporate decision, whether it's setting the price for a new product or deciding where to run a new ad campaign, it all comes down to making sense of the noise. The core challenge for any business today isn't a lack of information, right? It's making sound, calculated marketing decisions in a world that's just defined by constant, accelerated change.
That's right.
It's an art, of course, connecting with people emotionally, but more and more, it's becoming a rigorous science. And it's a science powered by a systematic flow of data.
It is.
So our mission in this deep dive is to cut through that overwhelming information overload and show you, step by systematic step, how the smartest organizations build their systems to see what is truly driving the marketplace.
And that mission is absolutely vital. I mean, the truly holistic marketer knows that the environment is always churning out new opportunities and new threats that can pop up seemingly overnight. You need comprehensive, up-to-date information about everything. From the massive, macro trends, the huge shifts happening globally, all the way down to the tiny micro effects in your specific local market.
And to really grasp how serious this is, you just have to look back at the 2008-2009 recession.
Exactly. That slowdown didn't just, slow things down. It brought about these profound, immediate, and sometimes really contradictory changes in how people behaved as consumers.
And the change was brutal for some sectors.
Oh, it was. Suddenly, sales of big discretionary purchases, we're talking high-end jewelry, home furnishings, and critically luxury brands like Mercedes, they declined by a staggering one-third globally.
Wow!
Oh. General Mills, for example, saw revenues climb for household staples like Cheerios and Progresso soup. And sales of low-priced private label brands, the store brands, they just soared across the board.
So the key question everyone was asking was, is this temporary?
That was the multi-billion-dollar question. Was this just a temporary adjustment, a reflection of the current economic pain, or had a new age of ingrained prudence, of frugality really emerged? Was this a fundamental long-term shift in how people view spending and saving?
Because understanding that difference, temporary versus permanent, is everything. It dictates whether you invest in a low-cost solution or just try to wait it out for the high-end spending to return.
And to answer that, you need data, delivered in a structured, consistent way.
Which brings us right to the concept that orchestrates all of this, the Marketing Information System, or MIS.
Right. And as you said, this is not just an app or some database. It's the integrated mechanism, the people, the technology, the equipment, and the procedures that constantly gathers, sorts, analyzes, and then distributes the needed, timely, and accurate information to the decision makers.
And we see it time and time again. Companies with superior information flow, they just choose their target markets better, they develop better products, and they execute their marketing plans with near-flawless precision.
And we have a perfect example of what that superior information can actually achieve. This isn't just theory.
Let's talk about the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, the MEDC.
Yes. They didn't rely on gut feelings about what tourists wanted. They invested heavily in studying the travel patterns and demographic data of their own visitors, and also those of competing Midwestern cities.
So they're building this laser-focused new marketing message based on hard data.
And the return on that intelligence was just astronomical. That focused information allowed the MEDC to attract 3.8 million new trips to Michigan between 2004 and 2008.
3.8 million.
Which generated $805 million in new visitor spending. And most critically for the state, it resulted in $56 million in incremental state tax revenue. That figure is the proof. The right data at the right time transforms public spending into profit.
So if we break down the structure of this powerful MIS, it really comes down to three core components. First, you have the internal company records, all that rich operational data you already own. Second, there are the marketing intelligence activities, which is that systematic, outward-looking approach to understanding the market.
And third, which is for more specific isolated problems, is marketing research. While all three are connected for this deep dive, we're really going to focus on mastering that internal data and then building an effective marketing intelligence system.
Let's start with the foundation then, the data that's already living inside the organization. Okay, so let's unpack the engine room. Internal records. This is your foundational data set. It's the granular information that's already sitting inside your company systems reports on orders, sales volume, prices, costs, inventory levels.
Right. And receivables, payables, all of it. Marketing managers absolutely rely on the speed and accuracy of these reports to spot opportunities and problems almost instantly.
And the absolute heartbeat of this internal system is what we call the order-to-payment cycle.
Yes, and this is that intricate process that starts the moment a sales rep or a customer sends an order to the firm. The sales department prepares invoices, sends copies to, say, warehousing and shipping, and handles the whole tricky process of back ordering items that are out of stock.
It sounds like a purely administrative function, but I imagine the speed and accuracy of this cycle is just foundational to customer trust.
It is absolutely crucial. I mean,
Yeah.
any delay or inaccuracy here translates directly into lost sales, friction, wasted resources.
Yeah.
Customers fundamentally favor firms that can deliver on time.
And we have a great example of this, the Fossil Group Australia. They design and distribute accessories and apparel globally.
Right. And their account executives were on the road taking these massive wholesale orders, but they lacked real-time, instantaneous information about current pricing and, even more critically, inventory levels.
So they were effectively selling product that might not even be there. A huge disconnect between the sales team and the warehouse.
Exactly. The result was massive internal friction and really high backorder rates for their most popular items, which led to significant dissatisfaction among their key retail partners.
So how did they fix that systemic failure?
They didn't just add a database, they optimized the whole workflow. They deployed a mobile sales solution that connected their account executives directly, in real time, with current pricing and inventory data.
And the change was radical.
It was. The number of sales tied up in back orders fell by 80%. And the company could now provide guaranteed inventory levels and ship orders in hours, not days. This is internal data flow transforming operational excellence.
That Fossil example really shows it's about optimizing the process of data flow, not just hoarding data. And beyond that order-to-payment cycle, timely sales reports are essential. We have to talk about Walmart here.
Well, Walmart is still the global gold standard for leveraging internal records. They operate a sales and inventory data warehouse that captures granular data on every single item for every customer, in every store, every single day.
And they refresh it hourly.
Hourly. This level of immediate, granular information gives them an unparalleled competitive advantage in negotiating prices and managing logistics.
And this kind of speed isn't just about retail, it's about managing the entire distribution channel, which is exactly what Panasonic had to focus on when they ran into trouble.
That's right. After Panasonic missed several revenue goals, they realized their inventory distribution was just deeply flawed, completely out of sync with what consumers were actually buying.
So what did they do?
They adopted a vendor-managed inventory solution, basically taking control of how their product flowed through all the retail channels. And the change was immense. Product availability to customers jumped from 70% to 95%.
It's a huge jump.
It is. And the average time a product just sat stagnant in Panasonic's distribution channels dropped precipitously, from 25 weeks down to just 5 weeks, all within a year.
25 weeks to 5. That's a staggering reduction. It cuts holding costs, waste, makes you so much more responsive.
And it translated directly to the bottom line and their strategic position. Unit sales of their targeted plasma TVs rose from 20,000 to about 100,000. But maybe the bigger win was their elevated status with retailers.
Whoa, interesting.
Best Buy promoted Panasonic from a Tier 3 to a Tier 1 go-to brand. That fundamentally improved their shelf space and their partnership terms. So the takeaway isn't just that they moved inventory faster, it's that this speed fundamentally repositioned them with a key partner.
Okay, so superior data management is clearly non-negotiable. But this is where we have to introduce a critical warning about data interpretation. We call it the yellow Mustang anecdote.
Yes, and this is so important for the listener to understand. Internal sales data reflects results, what was bought, but not necessarily what the customer actually wanted.
Right.
Michael Dell used to give this illustration. Imagine a car dealer has 3 yellow Mustangs sitting on the lot. A customer walks in, and they specifically want a red one. But the salesman, being an excellent salesman, persuades that customer to buy the yellow one that's in stock.
So the internal sales report signaled a preference for yellow?
Precisely. The yellow Mustang is sold, and the signal sent back to the factory is, hey, people want yellow Mustangs, when in reality the market wants red, but they just settled for what was available.
And without external intelligence to validate those internal figures, you could commit massive resources based on a false demand signal.
Which is why internal records alone are never enough. It shows the difference between what the customer purchased and what the customer truly desired.
That's a brilliant distinction. So to mitigate that risk, companies have to move beyond simple reports and into things like data warehousing and data mining for precision.
Exactly. This involves organizing all that rich internal information into these massive interlinked databases, customer, product, salesperson, and then combining them to spot patterns. A customer database might hold every name, address, past transaction, and even external demographic and psychographic data. A whole comprehensive profile.
And the most famous system for systematically analyzing this trove of data is the RFM model.
Recency, frequency, and monetary value. So instead of a generic carpet bombing, mailing of a new offer to every single customer, which is expensive and gets low returns, companies rank every customer using these RFM scores.
And they only target the highest scoring people.
Right. This targeted manipulation of internal data doesn't just drastically reduce marketing waste. It can achieve double-digit response rates because the targeting is so acutely precise.
And this is where we have to talk about the DuPont Pillow study, because it shows how data mining can go beyond just purchases to reveal deep behavioral insights.
Absolutely. The DuPont Corporation wanted to improve sales of its Dacron polyester unit, so they commissioned this deep research into personal pillow behavior. They didn't just ask customers if they liked their pillows, they focused on how people interacted with them.
And the data mining uncovered 5 distinct behavioral groups.
Yes. Stackers, plumpers, rollers, cuddlers, and smashers.
Wait, smashers?
Yes, people who need to aggressively shape and reshape their pillow before sleeping. But the revelation wasn't just interesting, it was actionable. The research revealed a high prevalence of stackers, people who need multiple pillows for elevation and comfort.
Which led DuPont to a simple but brilliant conclusion.
It led them to recommend selling more pillows packaged specifically as pairs rather than individually. That simple adjustment, based on deep behavioral data, led to increased unit sales.
That is a spectacular example. It's the difference between asking, "Did you buy a pillow?" and asking, "How do you sleep with your pillow?"
Precisely. Now look at the sheer scale of modern application. Take Wells Fargo, for instance.
Wells Fargo is the master of cross-selling.
They use immense in-house technology to track and analyze every single bank, transaction checking, savings, credit, loans made by their 10 million retail customers, no matter where it happens, ATM, branch, online.
So if I start seeing a pattern of spending on, say, contractors or furniture, Wells Fargo system knows it's the exact moment to offer me mortgage rate lock-ins or home insurance.
You got it. They know exactly when to intervene, and the strategy works. Wells Fargo sells an average of 4 products per customer, which is almost double the industry average of 2.2. They just successfully leverage that internal data to increase the lifetime value of every single customer.
And Best Buy has taken this profiling to an almost unbelievable level.
Oh yeah. Best Buy assembled a colossal 15-plus terabyte database with 7 years of detailed data on 75 million households. It captures every phone call, every mouse click, every delivery detail.
And they deploy these sophisticated algorithms to classify over 100 million individuals into these highly profiled categories.
That's right. Categories like Buzz, the young tech buff who loves cutting-edge gadgets, Jill, the suburban soccer mom focused on utility and price, and Ray, the family man who researches heavily before making a big, sensible purchase.
So they know exactly how to market to each group.
Yes, they even factor in a customer lifetime value model that measures profitability at the transaction level. Knowing this much allows them to use extreme precision marketing. For example, targeting Buzz with exclusive pre-order access for a new gadget while offering Jill a price match guarantee.
So internal data mastery isn't a luxury anymore.
No, it's the fundamental, non-negotiable prerequisite for success. So, we've established that the internal record system gives you results, data, what we sold, to whom, and at what price. But to avoid that yellow Mustang trap and really understand the environment, you have to activate the marketing intelligence system.
Which supplies happenings data.
Exactly. This is the set of organized procedures managers use to get comprehensive, everyday information about developments in the external marketing environment, what the competition is doing, what new trends are emerging, and how the market is reacting to, say, political or social shifts.
So this means managers need to shift from sitting at their desks looking at sales reports to actively engaging with the world, reading analysis, talking to customers, monitoring social media.
All of it. But before we get into the sophisticated methods, we absolutely must address the ethics of intelligence gathering.
A very important point.
The need for intelligence never, ever overrides the necessity that all gathering must be strictly legal and ethical. And there's a crucial cautionary tale from 2006 involving Diligence, a high-profile private intelligence firm.
What happened?
Diligence paid the global auditor, KPMG, $1.7 million after it was revealed they had illegally infiltrated the firm to get a confidential audit of an investment firm for a Russian client.
Wait, $1.7 million for one document. And they did it by having Diligence's co-founder pose as a British intelligence officer. That sounds like something out of a spy novel, not corporate best practice.
It does, and it sets a very clear boundary.
Yeah.
Competitive information must be obtained legally and ethically, period.
Okay, so moving from corporate espionage back to more pragmatic and legal methods, we can look at an example of old-school intelligence gathering that perfectly captures the goal of this system, courtesy of T. Boone Pickens.
I love this story. It's so brilliantly simple. In the pre-internet age, when a competitor was drilling near one of his sites, Pickens recalls, we would have someone who would watch their drilling floor from a half-mile away with field glasses.
With binoculars.
Yep. Their spotters would meticulously count the joints of drill pipe being lowered into the ground. Since each joint was 30 feet long, they could just add them up and know the exact depth of the rival's well at any given moment.
And why was knowing the exact depth so critical?
Because Pickens was an expert on drilling costs. He knew that the deeper the well, the exponentially more costly it would be to get the oil or gas out. So he could calculate his rival's costs and potential profits almost instantly.
Giving him an immediate competitive advantage.
A significant one. It helped him decide whether to bid on neighboring leases or not. That is the core goal of intelligence, finding simple, reliable, actionable information before your rival does.
That is just brilliant fieldwork. Okay, let's get into these systematic organizational tactics that modern companies can use. We have 8 key actions here.
Let's walk through them. First, train the sales force as intelligence gatherers.
Right, they're on the front lines.
They are, but companies often fail to sell their reps on the importance of this. They see reporting as a distraction from selling. Grace Performance Chemicals, which supplies construction materials, changed this by instructing its reps to stop just taking orders and instead observe innovative, non-traditional ways customers were using their products.
And what did they find?
They found customers were creatively using Grace waterproofing materials for entirely new purposes, like soundproofing their cars or patching boots and tents. This direct observation led to 7 new product ideas worth millions in sales, all from just paying closer attention.
Okay, number 2. Motivating and systematically working with intermediaries.
Your distributors, retailers, agents. They are physically closer to the end customer and the competition than you are. Conagra, the food giant, leveraged this by studying how and why people buy their foods with their retail partners, Safeway, Kroger, Walmart.
So they were connecting dots in the shopping cart that a manufacturer would never see.
Precisamente. They found a strong correlation. Shoppers who bought their popcorn brands also tended to buy Coke products. This led to joint in-store displays and promotions. They also learned that many mothers systematically shifted to time-saving meals when school started, which prompted their highly successful Seasons of Mom campaign.
Number 3. Hiring external experts to collect intelligence.
This is using specialists like mystery shoppers. Retailers and service providers do this all the time to assess cleanliness, product quality, employee treatment. Even healthcare facilities use mystery patients to improve the delivery of care.
Okay, 4. Networking internally and externally in a disciplined manner.
This is common sense but formalized. The firm systematically buys competitors' products to reverse engineer them, attends trade shows, reads their annual reports, consults suppliers. It's about leveraging every single touch point as a potential information source.
5. Setting up customer advisory panels.
Right. You use your largest, most sophisticated, or most outspoken customers. They provide direct, high-quality feedback. GlaxoSmithKline, for example, found superior insights by sponsoring an online community for weight loss. They learned far more there than from traditional focus groups.
6. Taking advantage of government data resources.
Companies often overlook the sheer wealth of free, high-quality data available. The U.S. Census Bureau provides an unparalleled look at population swings and demographic shifts. Firms like Nielsen Claritas then cross-reference this with consumer surveys for clients like BMW to purchase highly targeted mailing lists.
And 7. Purchasing information from outside research firms and vendors.
You don't have to gather it all yourself. You can buy data on product sales or media exposure from firms like AC Nielsen. And companies like Biz360 provide real-time analysis of news and consumer opinion from over 70,000 traditional and social media sources.
Which brings us squarely to the eighth and fastest growing area, online intelligence. The internet has created this explosion of outlets where consumer sentiment just lives.
And the speed at which one customer's review or rant can be distributed to thousands of potential buyers is just unprecedented.
So monitoring this chaos requires structure.
It does. Marketers use 5 main categories of sources to research competitors online. You have independent review forums like opinions.com. You have distributor sites like amazon.com. There are combo sites that offer both customer reviews and expert opinions like zdnet.com.
And the less pleasant ones.
Right. Customer complaint sites like planetfeedback.com, and of course public blogs and social networks. There are tens of millions of them, and firms like Nielsen's Buzzmetrics specialize in analyzing these sources for real-time insights.
The critical final step, once you have this torrent of real-time intelligence, is knowing how to act on it, and act quickly.
Speed is everything online. It's the difference between a minor issue and a brand-damaging crisis. When the ticket broker StubHub detected a sudden surge of highly negative sentiment after confusion over a rain-delayed Yankees-Red Sox game, they didn't wait.
They jumped in immediately.
Immediately. They proactively offered discounts and credits to stabilize the situation. Their director of customer service called this ability to respond immediately a canary in a coal mine.
So their real-time intelligence turned a potential social media crisis into a customer retention win.
Exactly. Another stunning example is Coke. Their monitoring software spotted an upset consumer's Twitter post, and this consumer had 10,000 followers, about an issue with the My Coke Rewards program.
Oh, wow.
Coke's social media team quickly posted an apology on his Twitter profile and resolved the situation in minutes. The result: the consumer was so happy with the response that he changed his Twitter avatar to a photo of himself holding a Coke bottle.
That is real-time sentiment conversion.
Incredible.
We've mastered the internal data, and we've learned how to gather timely intelligence from the near environment. Now we turn our attention to the widest possible lens, the macro environment.
Right. This is the source of the most profound opportunities and threats. These are the massive forces that can completely change the rules of the game for an entire industry.
But first, we have to clearly differentiate between 3 types of change factors because they demand drastically different responses.
Yes. Fad, trend, and megatrend. A fad is unpredictable, very short-lived, and has no lasting significance. Think Crocs clogs at their peak or the early Pokemon craze. You can cash in on a fad, but it's risky. Success requires pure luck and perfect timing.
Then you have a trend, which is much more stable.
A trend is a direction or sequence of events with distinct momentum and durability. It's way more predictable than a fad, and it reveals the future shape of consumer behavior. The enduring trend toward health and nutrition awareness, for instance. That's why Macaroni Grill had to fundamentally revamp its high-calorie menu. They were responding to a predictable, durable trend.
And finally, the monumental megatrend.
A megatrend is a large social, economic, political, or technological change that's slow to form, but once it's in place, it influences us for 7 to 10 years or longer. Things like the shift to digital platforms or global aging. These fundamentally restructure entire industries.
Okay, let's look at the 6 major forces driving these trends. Demographic, economic, sociocultural, natural, technological, and political legal. What's crucial to grasp is that these forces are not isolated. They're constantly interacting.
That interaction is the secret to strategic foresight. For example, explosive global population growth, demographic, leads to resource depletion, natural. That stress then leads consumers to call for more restrictive laws, political legal, which in turn stimulates new technological solutions, technological. These new sustainable products, if they're produced affordably, economic, may actually change attitudes and behavior, sociocultural. It's a constantly churning, interconnected system. Hashtag the demographic environment.
Let's start with the most predictable of the macro forces, demographics. We're monitoring population size, growth rate, age distribution, ethnic mix, all of it.
And the raw numbers are staggering. Earth's population was 6.8 billion in 2010 and is projected to exceed 9 billion by 2040. Crucially for global marketers, the developing regions of the world account for 84% of this growth. That changes where the opportunity is.
The source material gives us this stunning way to visualize this, imagining the world as a village of 100 people.
It really hammers home the disparity. In that village of 100, 61 would be Asian, 18 would be unable to read, but 33 would have cell phones, highlighting that technological leapfrogging. 18 would be under 10 years old, and a staggering 53 would live on less than $2 a day.
Which directs us to a huge, often ignored marketing insight, the bottom of the pyramid, BOP. We're talking about the 5 billion unserved or underserved people in emerging markets who represent enormous untapped potential.
Right, provided firms can serve them at the right price point. This has led to what we call reverse innovation. GE, for example, successfully introduced a robust, low-cost $1,000 handheld ECG device for rural India and a portable PC-based ultrasound for rural China.
And now those efficient, low-cost solutions are being sold back in the U.S.
Precisely. Another stunning example is the Narayana Hrudayalaya Hospital in India. They charge a flat fee of just $1,500 for heart bypass surgery. That is up to 50 times less than the cost in the U.S.
50 times less, that immediately raises the question of quality.
It does, which is why the model is so radical. They achieve this massive cost reduction through extreme efficiency and an assembly line view of care. The result, their patient mortality rates are actually half those of U.S. hospitals.
Incredible. Okay, moving to age mix and cohorts, we see a global aging trend. By 2050, 1 in 10 people worldwide will be 65 or older.
And when marketing to age, it's critical to understand cohorts. These are groups of individuals born during the same time period. They're defining moments. Those formative events experienced between ages 17 and 24 can stay with them for a lifetime and influence their values and buying behaviors.
We're also seeing the rise of ethnic and non-traditional markets. U.S. diversity is increasing exponentially. The Hispanic population, for instance, has been growing twice as fast as the rest.
And their purchasing power is growing even faster. Firms are scrambling to refine their approach. Research from Univision suggests that 70% of Spanish-language viewers are more likely to buy a product advertised in Spanish. But you can't generalize. The Yankelovich Monitor, for example, segmented the African-American market into 6 distinct groups with vastly different needs.
And the structure of the traditional American family is dissolving, leading to dramatic household shifts. By 2010, only 1 in 5 U.S. households was a traditional married couple with kids under 18.
You've got this rise of single live-alones, childless married couples, which creates entirely new marketing targets. One fascinating new target is the boomer dad, who marries later and is far more involved in raising kids.
And companies have seized this opportunity.
They have. The maker of the Bugaboo stroller designed a model with a sleek, almost industrial look and dirt bike-style tires to appeal explicitly to men. And Dyson, the vacuum company, appeals to men's inner geek by focusing on the technology. Men now make up 40% of Dyson's customers. Hashtag the economic environment.
If demographics are relatively predictable, the economic environment is inherently volatile. Purchasing power is the core driver here, dependent on income, prices, savings, debt, all of it.
And the 2008 recession sparked that fundamental debate about consumer psychology. Did the new patterns of prudence, more comparison shopping, more haggling reflect a short-term need or a long-term permanent shift toward frugality?
And smart companies had to hedge against both possibilities. Starwood, the hotel giant, launched a Style at a Steal initiative.
Right, they introduced 2 new low-cost chains, a Loft, reflecting urban cool, and Element, focusing on modern design. They shrewdly targeted consumers who wanted both thrift and luxury.
We also use income distribution to categorize global markets, but the categories don't tell the whole story, which is where the Lamborghini example comes in.
Right. A country might have a very low, very high incomes pattern. The market for a car costing over $150,000 would seem tiny.
But Portugal, a country with this pattern, is one of the largest single markets for Lamborghinis in Western Europe. Why?
Because the market isn't about the overall national wealth, but the concentration of extreme wealth. Portugal has enough extremely wealthy families to sustain that high-end market. Marketers must analyze distribution, not just averages. Hashtag the sociocultural environment.
The sociocultural environment defines our worldview, how we relate to ourselves, others, society. It affects our core cultural values, which are deeply persistent, and our secondary beliefs, which are open to change.
And you cannot change a core belief. Believing in the family unit is a core belief. Believing people should marry early is a secondary belief. Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, MADD, doesn't try to stop the sale of alcohol, a core cultural belief. but they successfully promote lower legal blood alcohol limits.
Hmm.
A secondary belief that is open to change.
We can even segment society based on their outlook.
Yes, you have preservers who want to return to the past, makers who are high achievers, takers who are materialistic, changers who live more frugally, and seekers and escapers who are a major market for movies, music, and camping, as they look for something deeper or just want to get away.
And finally, the power of subcultures. Marketers perpetually love teenagers.
Because they're powerful trendsetters. Frito-Lay, which draws 15% of its sales from teens, noticed a rise in chip snacking by grown-ups. Their marketing director noted, "We think it's because we brought them in as teenagers and the habit stuck. Hashtag the natural environment, the green marketing revolution."
This is maybe the most significant macro shift of the last 2 decades. The natural environment and the rising public concern about it.
Absolutely. This concern demands corporate environmentalism, integrating environmental issues into the firm's strategic plans. Marketers have to track 4 trends: the shortage of raw materials, especially water, increased energy costs, increased pollution, and the changing role of government.
But where there is a problem, there is an opportunity in solutions.
Always. Firms that can reconcile profitability with environmental protection are thriving. Dublin-based Electricity operates massive offshore wind farms, offering cheaper, greener electricity. Westport Innovations developed a technology that allows diesel engines to run on cleaner liquid natural gas.
And in the developing world, there's Sun Ovens International.
Right. Where millions suffer from indoor air pollution from cooking fires, Sun Ovens makes solar ovens. Used in 130 countries, this simple tech drastically reduces emissions and eliminates dangerous indoor pollution. It's a massive public health and environmental win.
However, we hit the green marketing challenge here. Despite rising concern, consumer behavior is often slow to follow.
It is. Only 26% of Americans actively seek environmentally friendly products. This means marketers have to be nuanced and understand the different consumer segments for green products.
You have the 15% genuine greens, who will pay a premium, but then you have the 18% not me greens, who express pro-green attitudes but consistently fail to act.
And strategically, the not me greens are a massive opportunity if you can remove the barriers: cost, performance, convenience. You also have the go with the flow greens, who only do easy things like recycling, and the mean greens, who are actively hostile to pro-environmental ideas.
So how do you successfully launch a green product?
You prove the product offers superior consumer value alongside the environmental benefit. The success story of Clorox GreenWorks Natural Cleaner is the template. It was a hit because it combined genuine environmental benefits with a very modest price premium and performance that was comparable to traditional cleaners. It those go with the flow and not me consumers. Hashtag the technological environment. Technology is the ultimate engine of creative destruction. New technologies inevitably destroy old industries. Transistors killed vacuum tubes. The internet destroyed physical newspapers and music stores.
And when old industries ignore the inevitable, the consequences are fatal. Tower Records had ample warning about digital downloads but failed to adapt, and they liquidated all their domestic stores in 2006.
That failure highlights one of the major trends: the accelerating pace of change. More ideas are reaching the market faster. Apple, for instance, sold a staggering 220 million iPods worldwide in only 7 years. That speed changes everything.
And it's coupled with unlimited opportunities for innovation.
In fields like biotech, microelectronics, telecommunications. But this isn't unregulated chaos. We also see increased regulation of technological change. The FDA has to approve all drugs, and safety regulations have increased across food, autos, and appliances, adding significant cost and time to innovation. Hashtag the political legal environment.
The final force: laws, government agencies, and pressure groups. And interestingly, these laws, while restrictive, can also create new opportunities.
They absolutely can. Business legislation is intended to protect competitors, consumers, and society. But mandatory recycling laws, for example, have fundamentally boosted the recycling industry and launched dozens of new companies making products from recycled materials.
Some countries are very strict. Norway bans certain sales promotions, like contests, as unfair.
And we've also seen the massive growth of special interest groups and the consumerist movement. The consumerist movement has successfully organized citizens to strengthen the rights of buyers, winning the right to know the real cost of a loan, unit pricing, and the nutritional quality of food.
And the final, major hot-button issue, especially online, remains privacy and identity theft.
Precisely. Consumers are highly cautious. Wise companies must proactively establish clear, transparent policies to resolve these issues, recognizing that consumers are only willing to swap personal information for customized products from marketers they truly trust. Okay, so we've collected all the internal and external data. Now we face the ultimate test, quantifying the potential. Forecasting and demand measurement is the bottom line because every major company function uses these numbers to set its strategic direction.
And the reliance is critical. Finance needs the forecast to raise cash. Manufacturing needs it to set capacity. Purchasing needs it for supplies. HR needs it for staffing. If that forecast is off, it's an immediate catastrophe.
Either excess inventory, which drains cash, or inadequate inventory, which means
Hmm.
lost sales and a damaged reputation. And these forecasts can drive massive, multi-billion-dollar strategic shifts. Look at DuPont Tyvek. They dominated their segment, but their market measurement showed the much greater opportunity was to tap into the entire $7 billion U.S. home construction market.
So, to manage this complexity, companies can prepare up to 90 different types of demand estimates simultaneously.
90. You're measuring 6 different product levels, 5 different space levels, from world to customer, and 3 different time periods. A short-run forecast for a territory on a single product line is for the sales manager. A long-run forecast for the entire global product category is for the finance department to approve building a new factory. They serve completely different masters.
So, to use the data correctly, we need crystal clear key vocabulary.
We use a tiered system. First is the potential market, consumers who express interest. Then the available market. They have interest, income, and access. Third is the qualified available market. They have interest, income, access, and the required qualifications, like being over 21.
Then you narrow it down further.
To the target market, which is the subset you decide to pursue. And finally, the penetrated market, the consumers who is currently buying your product.
That structure helps managers decide, am I trying to get a larger percentage of my current target, or do I need to expand the entire qualified available market?
Exactly. This leads to the distinction between market demand and market potential. Market demand isn't a fixed number. It's a function that varies depending on total industry marketing spending. It has a lower limit, the market minimum, Q1, which is base sales with zero spending,
And an upper limit.
the market potential, Q2, the absolute maximum demand with near infinite spending. The gap between Q1 and Q2 shows the overall marketing sensitivity of demand.
And you can classify markets based on that gap.
Yes, expansible markets have a large gap. Increased marketing grows the whole category. Non-expansible markets, like weekly trash removal, have a small gap. There, you have to fight for market share from a fixed pie,
And to measure that opportunity, you calculate the market penetration index.
which is the ratio of current demand to potential demand. A low index suggests huge growth potential for everyone. A high index means the market is saturated and price competition will be intense.
We also have to be careful with the term forecast. A company's sales forecast is the expected level of sales based on a chosen marketing plan. It's the result of that spending decision, not the basis for it.
And we distinguish that from 2 other concepts. The sales quota is a managerial goal, often set high to motivate the sales force. The sales budget is a more conservative, often low, estimate used by finance to manage cash flow.
So a quota is set high for motivation, a budget is set low for financial conservatism, different tools for different functions.
Precisely. Now, for the practical methods for estimating current demand, how do we calculate total market potential?
The chain ratio method.
The formula is simple. You multiply the potential number of buyers by the average quantity each purchases, times the average price. If you estimate 100 million people buy 3 books a year at $20 each, the total market potential is $6 billion.
And for area market potential, say, demand in Virginia, we use 2 primary methods.
For business markets, we use the rigorous market buildup method. You identify all potential industrial buyers in an area, often using NAICS codes, and estimate their purchases. You literally build up the market potential by adding customer segments.
And for consumer markets.
We use the multiple factor index method. You use a weighted average of key factors, disposable income, retail sales, population, to create a buying power index, BPI. If Virginia has a BPI of 2.04, the firm might expect 2.04% of the nation's total drug sales to happen there.
This then feeds into the Brand Development Index, or BDI.
The BDI is an index of your brand sales relative to category sales in an area. If your BDI is 65 in Portland, it suggests your brand is underdeveloped there. Conventionally, a lower BDI suggests a higher market opportunity.
But there's a debate here, right? Invest in the low BDI market. or the opposite?
That's the classic strategic fork in the road. Some firms, like Anheuser-Busch, targeted the growing Hispanic population in Texas, a high-potential, low BDI market, to grow their base.
Huh.
But the alternative strategy says, why invest in a cold market? If your BDI is high in California, invest there to protect your leadership and maintain higher margins.
It depends on your risk appetite and long-term goals.
Entirely. Finally, we have methods for estimating future demand. These are based on three things: what people say, what people do, or what people have done.
Okay, what people say is surveys.
Right, a survey of buyers' intentions, the composite of Salesforce opinions, which is useful but prone to bias and expert opinion, gathered in group discussions, or the Delphi method.
What people do is the market test method.
The most definitive for new products. You put the product into a test market to directly measure buyer response.
And what people have done relies on analysis of past buying behavior.
This includes past sales analysis, breaking down past data into trend, cycle, and seasonal components and projecting them forward. And critically, statistical demand analysis. This uses powerful multivariate regression models to measure the actual impact of causal factors on sales.
So it's more than just projecting a trend line.
Much more. It tries to answer, how much did sales change when we increased ad spending by 10%? It provides a mathematical way to forecast the outcome of various hypothetical marketing plans. It's essential for comprehensive, scenario-based forecasting. #tag outro.
What an exhaustive deep dive. We've covered the entire journey. From the meticulous mastery of internal data, seeing how Best Buy and Wells Fargo create these incredibly detailed customer profiles, to scanning the global landscape for megatrends, and ultimately quantifying potential with sophisticated forecasting models.
The fundamental takeaway is that the sheer volume of data is useless unless it is captured, processed, and applied systematically to yield deep insight. Remember the power of precision. We saw it with the Fossil Group optimizing logistics, and we saw it with that simple but crucial DuPont pillow study.
Right. Uncovering those distinct behavioral groups: stackers, plumpers, rollers, cuddlers, and smashers.
That distinction, seeing that stackers need pairs of pillows, is why precision marketing is so powerful. It led to selling products packaged as pairs instead of individually. A strategic move based on deeply observed consumer behavior, not just sales volume. That's true. Actionable intelligence.
It is. Now let's leave our listener with a provocative thought that connects back to the forces we discussed. We hit on that fundamental debate about consumer behavior. Is it primarily a function of a person's age and their life stage, or their generation cohort and their shared formative experiences? Given the accelerating pace of technological change, remember, 220 million iPods sold in 7 years, and the growing political and legal push for environmental and consumer protection, we are seeing major market-shifting events happen with much greater frequency.
We are.
So, does this increasing frequency of disruptive environmental shifts mean that generational effects are now overpowering traditional age effects? Is it creating cohorts with constantly shorter lifespans because their shared worldview is reshaped every few years? Or will our deeply ingrained core cultural values always anchor our ultimate purchasing decisions, regardless of whether we experienced the 2008 recession as a teen or as a retiree?
Something to consider as you model your next market move. Until next time.